So, the campaign for the British leaving the EU is finally underway, and the referendum will be held on the 23rd of this month, which is not too far away. We have seen the respective leaders, both for the Leave and Stay campaigns, pushing their agendas to try to get as many people on their side as possible. First and foremost, though, how did we get here? Well, Britain was one of the earlier members of the EU, joining its predecessor organization, the European Economic Community, in 1973. Despite this, relations have been bumpy at best. Though the EU is the UK's largest trading partner, with 44% of exports and 53% of imports, they've had their spat, mainly with regard to sovereignty. The British don't see themselves as European in the way that the rest of continental Europe does. As said before, there have been many questions about sovereignty that have sprung up since the UK joined. One such example is the Treaty of Lisbon that the UK, as well as other countries, had objections to. Also, there are economic arguments for leaving, such as not having to pay EU membership dues, which means that they could put that money into other parts of the British economy. Further, they'd be much more free to have different regulations and better able to restrict immigration from the rest of Europe. On the flip side, if they do stay, it means they can avoid paying extra tariffs on goods and services from the EU. They are its largest trading partner after all. They also have the ability to be represented twice, both within the EU and by the UK itself in international summits, which means that they're better able to coordinate their interests both within the EU and project that in combination with its national delegation to international summits. Also, and probably the most important, they don't have to scramble to think of a plan if they do end up leaving the EU, like the Leave campaign has to do. So what would happen if they do end up leaving? Well, there are a few solutions. They could be like Norway and Iceland and be part of the European Economic Area, which grants free movement, persons, goods, and services around the EU, among other things. They could be like Switzerland and just be part of the European Free Trade Agreement, with a few extra bilateral agreements with other countries in Europe to round out their economic viability. They could be like Turkey and have a customs union, or they could be like the rest of the world and use the WTO to help get in more trade, or, and this is the best solution for the Leave campaign, find a way of getting their own agreement that is tailored to and therefore is most favorable to them. So, what does Europe think about all this? Well, France is quite annoyed at the fact that they want to leave, and understandably so. And if it does go through and the UK does end up leaving, France wants to be as harsh as possible, essentially to set an example for other countries that want to try to leave. Other major players, such as Germany, the Netherlands, and Belgium itself, are advocating taking a softer stance on the UK leaving, such as making and securing good trade deals in the years before the UK actually does say goodbye if they do go through with it. Well, it'll be interesting to see what the people have to say about Britain, the EU, and whether or not they should stay. Hopefully the UK won't feel like they lost too much from leaving, or that other countries in the EU will feel emboldened to leave. Until then, all we can do is wait and hope that it all works out for both parties.